Good morning. Thursday, October 26th at 6 in the morning. My name is Larry Cedar. I'm back with you for another session on scanning, spelled Sqanning. There's really no such word. It's just a variation on the traditional scanning, Scanning, which talks about scanning. Whenever you're scanning something, you're running over it, testing for whatever. Scanning with a Q is a relaxation technique, which I discovered, which utilizes the incremental release of muscular tension to achieve a deep state of physical, emotional, and mental calm. And it's actually more than that, but we'll talk about that a little bit more today as we get into the practice. What we are basing this technique on, this practice of scanning on, is the ideas of a man named Thaddeus Golas, Golas, who wrote the book The Lazy Man's Guide to Enlightenment, in which he explains that the entire universe is made up of two basic processes: contraction, squeeze your hands together, and expansion, release. Everything in the universe is either contracting or expanding. And ultimately, we always end towards expansion, but we work very hard to maintain our structures, as he calls them, this body, our names, our titles, our work, our relationships, our buildings, our cars, everything we have. We maintain these contractions. We maintain these structures by contracting. And that's how we have life on this earth. It's all a contraction, and when it goes away, it will expand and disappear. So we vacillate between those two states, and at any given moment in your life, you may be leaning more towards contraction or expansion, and you'll begin to be able to assess where you are on this continuum as you begin to get more experienced at this technique. But you're going to want to begin to evaluate your state of mind, your state of consciousness, your state of physical being on that scale. Am I more contracted or expanded? Because in life, we tend to work hard, we worry, we think, we build, we rearrange things, we hold things. We tend to contract more than we expand. If you want a balanced life, you want an equal amount of both. They both have value, but we tend to forget to expand. And whenever you feel bad, chances are you're overly contracted and you need to expand. How do we expand? Well, the typical thing for most people is to have a shot of whiskey, take a beer, smoke a joint. They need to relax, is what people say. That's a form of chemical expansion. Scanning, as I teach it, is a technique that involves no external processes at all. You do it yourself. You can bring yourself into a more expanded state through the incremental release of muscular tension. And all that is this: squeeze your hands together, and on my count, release. 3, 2, 1, and release. You've expanded. Again, make a fist. 3, 2, 1, and release. So we're going to get better and better at using this technique to expand and to bring ourselves into a more open, relaxed, clear, available, calm, joyful state of mind. And then we can go back to our contracting. And I'm going to talk some more about the benefits of this in a minute, but let's get started with what I call the preliminary phase of scanning, and that is simply deep breaths followed by stillness and silence. Deep breaths, if you again look at everything in the world through the prism of this continuum, how contracted or expanded, well, deep breath is expansive by nature. You can feel it. You're expanding. So when you take a deep breath, you've already begun to expand, and any amount of expansion. You can't contract and expand at the same time. You can't make a fist and release a fist at the same time. So any amount of expansion moves you away from contraction. So I also want to reinforce for you the idea that even the smallest amount of expansion has great value when you're trying to bring yourself into a more expanded state. It's incremental, but it's also cumulative. So lots and lots of small expansions adds up to a bigger expansion until you have expanded almost completely, and then you come back to center and are balanced. So we start with deep breaths, followed by stillness and silence, same principle. Stillness is a lack of activity, a lack of intent, a lack of doing. You've stopped doing everything. So in a sense, you have stopped contracting, so you are expanding. And silence, because words, thoughts, ideas, discussion, noise are contractions. When you become silent, again, you've stopped the contractive process. So in a way, you might say that this preliminary phase is a way of putting the brakes on the contractive process. If you've ever found yourself spinning out of control, like you can't stop obsessing or thinking about something, you can't stop moving, you can't stop scanning the internet, well, you're on a contractive binge, you might say. Taking a deep breath, sitting in stillness and silence puts the brakes on that contractive state. Now, if you're moving in a car very fast and you want to reverse directions, the first thing you have to do is stop the car, and then you can go back. So you might say we are stopping the runaway car, and then we will begin our journey into the expanded state. So we're going to start with 3 deep breaths, followed by 15 seconds of absolute stillness and silence. When I say absolute, I mean don't move a muscle. That sends your body and consciousness a very clear signal you have stopped doing everything. But of course, continue to breathe. 3 deep breaths, followed by 15 seconds, absolute stillness and silence. Here we go. 15 seconds, don't move a muscle, but continue to breathe. Deep breath. And just take a note of how it feels to, perhaps for the first time in your day, frequently when I scan, it is the first time in the day that I've stopped doing everything. See how it feels to sit and do nothing, to be silent and still, and see how that feels as compared to what you were doing. Contraction can take many forms. I typically work out first thing in the morning, so I come to these sessions very contracted. My muscles have been contracting. I've been working to strengthen myself, to build endurance, to have a more solid physical being, to prepare me for going to battle with the world and my work. That's a contracted state. So it's useful to expand after that to bring myself back to center. But you can also roll out of bed in the morning and not have exercised or anything and be contracted. That's why so often we wake up and go, God, I need a cup of coffee, a chemical expansion, something that will stimulate us and get our system going. Because over the course of the night, you have closed in on yourself. You've gone into hibernation. You are contracted. You are closed down. So it makes it difficult to function, and we have a hard time waking up. And this is why, as I said, we'll take coffee or sometimes exercise to get ourselves going, to get ourselves more expanded so that we're more available. Our body, our mind is more open and clear. So again, as you begin to practice this technique, you'll begin to evaluate where you are at any given moment in the day or night. Are you contracted or expanded? Typically, as I always say, when I feel bad, I'm usually overly contracted, and so I scan to become more expanded. So now we're going to expand on our expansion. We're going to take 5 deep breaths, followed by 30 seconds of absolute stillness and silence. And when the 30 seconds are over, you'll take one last deep breath and then sit for a moment and evaluate the change. How do I feel different? Scanning is all about change. It's all about shifting from one process to another, in this case, contraction to expansion. If you want to get good at moving between those two states yourself, by initiating that transfer, then you want to pay attention to how it feels. Like learning a song, you want to learn the lyrics, you want to learn the melody so that you can sing that song more readily. The more you practice scanning, the better you will get at scanning. 5 deep breaths, followed by 30 seconds, absolute stillness and silence. Here we go. Deepest breath yet. 30 seconds, absolute stillness and silence. Don't move a muscle, but continue to breathe. Deep breath. Just register for a moment what has changed. So Thaddeus Golas, as I said, Golas, in The Lazy Man's Guide to Enlightenment, the foundation for this technique, talks about time as being a structure. When we contract, we can build a structure. When we bring wood materials together, we build a structure. Well, there's all kinds of structures in the universe. We are a structure. Materials, thoughts, molecules, cells, bones, blood, skin. We're all brought together to form a body. This is a structure, and when we die, it will expand and dissipate into, once again, where it came from, dust. So time is a structure. It's a artificially created way that we humans have designed to divide our life into portions and to designate each of those portions with a number. Now that's useful and necessary because in order to work together, to create things, to construct a day, we need to know what time it is so that we can coordinate with other people. We need to know time for a million reasons. So it's useful. Again, contraction is useful. Structures are useful. But one of the things, and I mention this because one of the things that happens to me, and I asked you to please notice what changes you experience when you have begun expanding, is that I begin to lose sense of time. I'm very much about time. I'm very aware of how much time I've spent doing something, how much time I've used doing something, how much time I've wasted not doing the things I need to do, how much time has passed, how much time do I have left. I'm very conscious of time. One of the things I notice when I begin to expand is that I lose that consciousness of time. I suddenly stop paying attention to how long I've been doing something, how much time I have left, what time it is. I go into a place of nothingness, neutrality. I just become aware that suddenly I'm adrift in the universe. The universe becomes timeless. That's an indication, if you experience that, that you are expanding. You're no longer in a hurry. You don't feel like you're late. You don't feel like you need to slow down, like you're getting there too fast. You just lose consciousness of time because suddenly you're just in the moment, now. Time is an excellent thing, but it is a contraction. It is a structure. So again, these are the things you watch for. As you begin to expand, you begin to notice certain things fall by the wayside, certain mental structures, certain ways of looking at things, identifying things, certain concerns and worries, they begin to fall away because expansion is the letting go. It's the dissemblage of structure until you come to a place of nothingness and peace and quiet. There are no concerns. There's no time frame. There's no deadlines. You just are. So think about that, again, as you watch for signs of change, as you become more expanded. We've just begun. These are just the preliminary steps, but this is what you're looking for. And you'll get better and better at noticing these things. And you will, in effect, encourage yourself to take it further. The final step in this preliminary phase is 7 deep breaths. We're going to go even further, followed by a full minute, 60 seconds of absolute stillness and silence. And if you feel dizzy or disoriented by these deep breaths, you're probably not used to it. You're used to staying constricted, contracted, holding, in effect, holding your breath, holding your body, keeping it together, as they say. So as you begin to let go, you're freeing up, you're opening up, you're dropping all your defenses, these muscular defenses you've built in. You may feel vulnerable, you may feel disoriented. It's a new way of being in the world. So just take a moment, catch your breath, let it pass, and continue. The further you go into this process, the less disoriented deep breaths will be. They'll actually start to feel wonderful. 7 deep breaths, 60 seconds, absolute stillness and silence. Here we go. Last one, deepest of all. 60 seconds, absolute stillness, silence. Don't move a muscle, but continue to breathe. Deep breath. And again, just register the changes. How do you feel different? You've changed. So register those changes. Again, you're learning a new song. You're learning the lyrics and the melody that are scanning. In this case, you're learning the physical, mental, and emotional shifts. You're studying them. You're seeing how they feel and what it is to be more expanded. Now, sometimes people will ask me, well, how do you know it's been 15, 30 seconds? Well, I count slowly, close enough. Counting numbers are a structure. They are a contraction. They are a useful tool that we need them to be on this earth. And it helps in the practice of this technique. But you again may notice as you become further expanded, you'll feel less of a compulsion to count. It won't matter if it's 15, 30, or 60 seconds. What will matter is enjoying the experience and staying with it, studying it, getting better at it. And you may stop counting, and that's fine. You can sit for 10 seconds, you can sit for 5 minutes, you can sit for as long as you want. What you want to do is get to an expanded place and then just live in that place. So the seconds, the counting are useful, but they're not necessary. In a completely expanded state, there are no numbers, there is no time. This technique, this process has no title, you have no name, you have no job. You just are. And that's strange to go to a place of nothingness like that, but that's the goal. Because in a place of nothingness, you are truly free. And once you've experienced that, you're going to want to revisit that state. You can't stay there. You need to have work. You need to have relationships. You need to get on with your life. We live on this earth. We have jobs. We have goals. You need to pursue those. But it's important to know that equally important, and I always say this, equally important is letting go of all that, if only for a moment, so that you can remember and understand on a fundamental level that you are not all of those things you've established in your life. You are just you. And when you can come to that place and just be you, a breathing human being, a physical body with a beating heart, breathing, feeling the air around you, experiencing the nothing that is just expansion, you will have gone a long way to bring yourself back to center or balanced. So that's the goal. So that's the preliminary phase. Again, take note of how you feel. I always say that on a basic level, if you take nothing else from these sessions, deep breaths, stillness, and silence. Not all day, just when you feel out of balance, when you feel overly contracted. It's that simple. There's never going to be a book, a class, a lecture, a long treatise on this technique. It's just very simple. Deep breaths, stillness, silence, and what I call the nuts and bolts of this technique, the incremental release of muscular tension. And we're going to talk about something associated with this release in a minute, but let's just get started. The incremental release of muscular tension. Squeeze your hands together, and on my count, release. 3, 2, 1, and release. Take a deep breath. So you've just expanded. So muscles can either do one of two things: contract or release, contract or expand. They are the perfect metaphor, and this is what I discovered when I discovered this technique, for this contractive expansive process. They are a template. They are representative of this process. You want to see contraction and expansion in action? Squeeze your hands together and release. You've now experienced the two basic processes of the universe. It's amazing, but that's all it is. So the muscles, because they have a binary function, either contract or expand, are the perfect tool to bring yourself into a more expanded state, to bring yourself into a heightened consciousness of this continuum. If contracting muscles is contraction, squeezing muscles is contraction, then letting go of them is expansion. You can't contract and expand at the same time. So by letting go of muscular tension, you are physically moving yourself into an expanded state. You're moving your body into an expanded state. When you say, what about my mind? My mind is the problem. I'm always thinking, I'm always worrying. Concentrate on incremental muscular release, and the mind will, like the muscles, release and let go of all those thoughts, and they will float away. This was the discovery I made, that if I focused on simply releasing muscular tension, your mind's going racing, but, okay, let it go. But concentrate, put your full concentration into incremental muscular release. Suddenly you'll find your mind to stop racing, because like the muscles of the body, the brain holds on to these thoughts. It holds things like muscles hold things, and the entire body begins to expand, relax. The mind relaxes. It stops contracting, trying to hold on to those ideas, to process them, to worry about them, to think about them. It lets go, and they float free. And you'll begin to feel much calmer, mentally and physically, and emotionally as well. And we'll get to that in a minute. So what we do is we move through the body, we scan the body. That's where the word scanning comes from, but with a Q, just to be different. Through these muscular zones, and we incrementally release muscular tension. And we start with zone 1, the face. You can look in a mirror if you like, or you'll just feel it. It's the easiest one to start with because you can see it happen. On my count, release all the muscular tension in your face. 3, 2, 1, and release. It's like you've been put under hypnosis. You've turned off the power to those muscles, and so they are now just hanging from your skull. When you make an expression, you contract those muscles. You use them to manipulate your face. When you let go, you've stopped all contraction and your muscles are slack. So you've just incrementally released muscular tension in zone 1. There's a lot of benefits to releasing muscular tension. We'll talk more about that in a minute, but that's all we're going to do. That is the core, the essence of scanning, incremental muscular release. If it doesn't make sense at first, you have to trust, especially when you feel really wound up or contracted, because your body's going to resist this process. You have to trust that if you keep releasing muscular tension, sometimes it takes me 5 minutes, 10, 15, sometimes it takes me a half an hour, depending on how contracted I am. You will eventually, as I say, break through, and your contraction will release and you will become more expanded. But it's an incremental, cumulative process, so you just have to stay at it. So zone 1 again, the face, 3, 2, 1, and release. Moving to zone 2, the top of the head, 3, 2, 1, and release. I'm practiced at this. I've been doing it for a long time. I know what it feels like to release the muscular tension in the top of my head. If you don't, you will. Keep practicing and you will. But in place of the actual sensation of release, you can use a visualization. You can imagine, let's say, an egg cracking on your head and then spilling down the side of your head, and that loose, kind of relaxed feeling is muscular release. So just focus on that. The counting is the focus, the snap is the release. And see if you can detect, truly experience, even the most incremental amount of muscular release of muscular tension. The top of the head, 3, 2, 1, and release. And I always like to say, yes, I felt it. Yes, I felt it. It's so small sometimes. That's why I always say it's important to validate and confirm and celebrate even the smallest amount of release of muscular tension, because even that tiny amount has moved the dial this much away from contraction. So any amount is helpful. You must be patient with yourself and with your body, and persistent. Zone 3 is the back of the head, 3, 2, 1, and release. And again, the back of the head, 3, 2, 1, and release. One more time, the back of the head, 3, 2, 1, and release. You'll also begin to discover, as you move through the body, an awareness of how much muscular tension you had. You may not have even been aware of it. You've been like, well, I had no idea I was holding the muscles in the top of my head tight, or the back of my head. I had no idea. So you're exploring. Again, you're scanning your body, looking for hidden treasure, looking for hidden pockets of muscular tension, and releasing them. And you'll start to feel all sorts of changes as you move the dial further and further. We'll talk about that in a second. Zone 4 is the neck, 3, 2, 1, and release. Take a deep breath. If you feel an impulse to breathe, you've probably been holding your breath, a contracted state. Now your body's saying, oh, it's safe. We're letting go. Now's my chance to catch up on the oxygen deficiency. So take that breath always. Also take a moment. See, we come into the habit of thinking that we must do. To change ourselves for the better, to improve our circumstances, we must do. And what we forget is that we must also undo. Undoing, expanding, again, I'm going to reinforce this idea, is of equal value. That's why my favorite expression is, I don't know. Because when you don't know, you're empty, and you are free to process and accept and utilize ideas. I don't know is an open, expanded place. I know everything is a highly contracted state. Again, useful when you really need to know, but self-destructive if you become so knowing that you've cut yourself off from all new ideas and experiences. So again, expansion is where you go to reopen yourself, make yourself available to the universe and everything that's happening around you. Not only so that you can learn, but so that you can more clearly identify the dangers or the helpful things in life. You have clarity. Zone 4, the neck, 3, 2, 1, and release. And again, the neck, 3, 2, 1, and release. What you're doing with the snap, again, is you're turning off the power to the muscles. Muscles require energy, power to function. That's why, when you're an athlete or something, you have to eat, you have to have food in you to use your muscles. But using muscles, using that energy can be draining. So when you begin to release muscular tension, you might find for some reason all of a sudden you have a lot more energy. You're more effective at your job, your work. You can think more clearly. You've let go. You've opened up. You're not focusing as much energy on holding that defensive position. So your energy is free to be diverted or utilized elsewhere. And in a minute, we're going to talk about ki. If you've ever heard of ki, it's an Asian concept. It's used in the martial arts and so forth. Ki is your life force, your life energy. When you are constricted, when you are contracted, you are restricting the flow of that ki. That is your life essence. That is your energy. That is what allows you to exist in the world effectively and to get things done and to process things and to endure and to heal and to help. Your ki is your life force. So being contracted, muscularly contracted, restricts. It holds things. It keeps you strong, but it also at the same time restricts. So as you begin to open up, you make way for your ki. You can become much more effective in life because your life force is free to express itself. Zone 5, the shoulders, let them drop. 3, 2, 1, and release. And again, the shoulders, 3, 2, 1, and release. Now, I'm talking a lot during this session. When I scan on my own, I don't talk at all. So these sessions are in a way counterproductive because at the same time as I'm expanding, I'm also contracting. I'm using a lot of words. But I've made peace with that contradiction. I still think it's effective to teach this technique, but when you practice on your own, practice in silence. Don't think, don't speak, experience. Zone 5, the shoulders, let them drop. 3, 2, 1, and release. And then moving to zone 7, down the back past the waist and into the all-important pelvis. 3, 2, 1, unclench and release. And again, the pelvis. 3, 2, 1, and release. 3, 2, 1, and release. This is a short session. I usually only take a half an hour, so you may not get as far as perhaps you'd like or have been on previous sessions when you practice on your own, but these sessions are instructional in nature. They're simply to remind you of the basic processes. I am feeling muscular release. I would like to take it a lot further in my own sessions later in the day. I will take it further. I usually scan for a half an hour or an hour in silence, as I said. And you'll begin to see what works for you. Each of us is different. You'll begin to see how your body works, how your contraction feels versus how you feel expanding, and you'll begin to understand how to move yourself on this continuum. Again, the pelvis. 3, 2, 1, and release. One more time. 3, 2, 1, and release. Take a deep breath. Sit for a moment in stillness and silence. I have to be honest with you, I keep meaning to do a session where I hardly talk at all, where I just take you through 3, 2, 1, release, deep breaths. I find myself always drawn to contraction for the need to explain. That's why I teach these classes. I have a need to explain, to hold together this structure of this technique I call scanning. Again, I'm aware that it's a contradiction. It runs counter to the technique itself. But again, life is a balance of contraction and expansion, and hopefully I teach these sessions in a state of balance. Some contraction, some expansion. Again, explore for yourself. Zone 8, down the legs, across the knees, and into the feet. On my count, release whatever tension you can in your feet. Think about the feet, and 3, 2, 1, and release. And again, the feet. 3, 2, 1, and release. Focus your energy on the feet, and try to the best of your ability, Release even the smallest amount of muscular tension. Let them go. 3, 2, 1, and release. Take a deep breath. Depending on your experience in working with your body, I'm an actor. I've spent my entire career trying to work with my body. It is my instrument, as the cliche goes, trying to understand how it works, trying to maintain my energy levels and my ability to express myself. So I started this process at a bit of an advantage because for many years before I even started scanning, I was practiced in the ideas of relaxation and opening up energy. It's all actor type stuff, and I'm an actor. But if you're unfamiliar with it, be patient with yourself and begin to explore it. And as I said, incremental, small ways. Release the tension in the face. 3, 2, 1, and release. Take a deep breath. Squeeze your hands together, and 3, 2, 1, release. These are all small, simple ways to release muscular tension. The challenge of scanning is to start, because I'm always resistant. I never want to let go. Not me, I want to. My body, my being, my instinctive, self-protective self takes up positions of contraction, structure to defend myself, to operate effectively in the world. These are habits. These are years-long developed habits of dealing with the world. So when I start scanning, I never want to let go. That's my defense mechanism. That's my success mechanism. So I am at war with myself. So if you find yourself resistant to this process, that's excellent. That means you've actually discovered, you've struck gold. You've discovered your contractive state. Now begin to gently nudge it. Move past the resistance. Sometimes it takes time. Gently nudge it until you feel yourself begin to expand, at which point your body will say, oh, this works too, and it will allow you to expand. And eventually you'll come to a state of complete stillness, silence, emptiness, openness, availability, acceptance, peace, joy, and, as Thaddeus Golis says, love, which is the most expansive act you can take in the universe. Why? Because love is the opening up and embracing of the other, that which is not you. When you are solid, when you are contracted, you are impermeable. You cannot love because you can't come together with other objects. You just bounce violently off the universe. You fight with everything. You struggle with everything. But when you are expanded, you become permeable and open, and you can merge with the universe. You can successfully and joyfully interact with everything that happens around you, for better or worse. You are more open and available. You have more clarity. You can more intelligently maneuver. Thaddeus Golis says you're not going to remove your obstacles, but you can learn to maneuver around them as you need to, or engage with them as you need to. And when you're expanded, you can more successfully do that. So that's our session. Again, I move through these steps very quickly as a means of reinforcing them. They're the same every time. Every session is the same. I will post this on my Facebook page. This is today's session, Thursday, October 26th, and this is how it went today. Every day is going to be different, and you will experience these sessions differently every time. So I'll post it on my Facebook page. It'll be up there for a couple of hours at least. And then I will also post it on the Sqanning Facebook page, which I recommend you start to follow, because that's where all the sessions will be. Again, you really only need one session. There's nothing new added. There's just possible new insights, but basically a reinforcement of the technique. And then I will also post it on a YouTube page. If you want to find these pages, just do a search for Sqanning, spelled with a Q, Sqanning, and there you will see the sessions. I hope this is useful to you. I know it's been useful to me. It is something which has changed my life. And every day I learn more about it. I come to a greater understanding of it. And the fact that it's so unknowable makes the pursuit so pleasurable, because every day I do learn something new, and I hope you do too. So have a great day. Thanks for visiting with me, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.